right, everyone, welcome to tonight's City Council Candidate Forum sponsored by your local Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce. I'm the current board chair, J.R. Phillips, and I will start with saying this is not my day job. This is not what I do for a living, so bear with me and we will get through this and we will have a wonderful forum, and I'm sure you'll all leave here better informed and the candidates will be well served, and that's our purpose here tonight. So thank you all for being here. We are going to get started as we have a lot to cover. I've introduced myself and I'm following a script, by the way, because Brett covers every inch of everything. That's our CEO for the chamber. Tonight we have two candidates for council member in District 2 and we have two candidates running for City Council in District 4. Their nameplates have their names, and under their names you can see which office they are seeking. Before we start, we want to go over some of our house rules. First of all, thank you to the West End for hosting tonight. We have a long-standing relationship with Grand Pacific Resorts, and we appreciate their support in hosting this forum and all the other many events that we host here as a Chamber of Commerce. Secondly, there will be no booing or interrupting the candidates in any way while we listen to them share their views. We are here to listen and to learn, but we can do this respectfully, and I hope you all appreciate that and agree right now to take part in this forum in that manner. Third, this is something we have shared with the candidates. There is no video recording of today's forum. The chamber is recording it, and it will be available on the chamber YouTube channel and website tomorrow. We want to avoid weaponizing each phrase these candidates say. Let's have a healthy discussion on all of these different topics. Each candidate tonight will get 2 minutes to give us an opening statement. We've asked them to share why they feel they are qualified to serve as city council members. Then we will have several questions we have prepared for them tonight. They will get 2 minutes each to answer those. We will also have some yes or no questions to ask. They will have signs to hold up nice and high when they ask those questions. Lastly, you, the audience, can submit questions tonight. We've left some time at the end of this event so that we can squeeze in some of these questions. To submit a question, you'll see Daryl and Kathleen in the back. They're waving their hands. That is who you would ask to come visit with you so you can submit questions. The format for your question needs to stay relative to local events. And we would ask that you get those questions submitted to Kathleen or Daryl by 6:15 so we can organize them in a way that will hopefully allow us to get all, if not most of them in. To the candidates, Joe Gabaldon, one of our chamber board members right here in the front row, will serve as your timekeeper. I have it on good authority that his phone battery is charged and it will be working perfectly tonight. He will be giving you a sign when you have 30 seconds left, and then again when you have 15 seconds left. And lastly, he will hold up a stop sign. Please stop so that I do not have to cut you off and be labeled as the horrible ogre of a moderator. With that, let's begin. Candidates, you each have 2 minutes to do your intro, and we will start at the end of the table with Greg.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming here. Thanks to the Chamber for hosting this event. My name is Greg Day, and I'm running for the District 4 seat on the City Council. My background is as a Marine aviator and as a commercial airline pilot. And those professions ingrained in me the importance of leadership and being able to work with each other. Because if you failed at either one of those, the consequences were grave. I want to bring that same dedication to leadership and collaboration to the council as we address the very serious threats that we are facing here in the city. And what are some of those threats? Homelessness is up 86%. Crime with organized gangs going around robbing vehicles and houses is up. Our utility rates are at their highest and adding to an already outrageous cost of living. And our city does face a future multi-million-dollar deficit. We can actually have positive outcomes for all of these things if we have a council that is willing to address every single one of these problems head-on, collaborating with each other for common sense solutions that focus on benefits for us here in Carlsbad. Now, as a father and as a husband, my motivation to be successful in this role couldn't be higher, because this is where my family is, and this is where their future is. And the Marine in me will be dedicated to applying those ideals of leadership and collaboration and ensuring that we have real common sense solutions for our city, our communities, and our families. Thank you.
Teresa.
All right. Is this on? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Teresa Acosta. I am currently the Carlsbad City Council member for District 4. I'm a local business owner, I'm a single mom, I'm a former professor, and a longtime community leader. I am very experienced in the community and with business. I'm known for my excellent work ethic and my collaborative problem-solving approach. I'm grateful to be deeply rooted here in our community, having served on many nonprofit boards, having founded a business here, having raised my daughter here, and having had 4 generations of my family living here at once. I know that we all love Carlsbad. I come from a place of passion for our community, knowing that we are in a beautiful, clean, safe community, and I want to protect our quality of life for all of us and for future generations. It's an honor to be selected to represent District 4, South Carlsbad, on the City Council. I have a strong record of making progress on the issues we all care about: sustainability, safety, affordability. I'm endorsed by Sierra Club, by police, by fire, by Congressman Levin, and by many more who support me and know that I'm the best choice for this seat. Thanks to the Chamber for organizing this event and to you all for being here, and I look forward to tonight's discussion.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kevin Shin. First and foremost, thank you for the Chamber for hosting this, and it's really great to actually know a lot of people here in this audience, so I feel like we're just like in my living room hanging out with another meet and greet. So my name is Kevin Shin again. I'm running for Carlsbad City Council District 2, and I believe I've had a complete rounded life experience that would be great for the dais. So I first started out coming down here for the Marine Corps, spent 12 years in there, went through the whole gambits of 9/11. Oh, Mario, you're done? Okay, cool. Why, that's it. So I loved coming down here, got my business degree here at Cal State San Marcos, said one day I'm gonna raise my family when I'm here, and there they are right there. That's my wife, Christine. That's my 2 beautiful daughters, Kalei, Leilani. I'm running for them. During my time and experience down here, I had decided one day I was gonna serve the community again, became a firefighter up in Culver City, spent 20 years doing that as the rank of a captain, and unfortunately I had a neck injury and it caused me to retire, but it allowed me to be able to serve you guys in this capacity. On the other side too, in 2019, I thought I had a bright idea, which was to open up a restaurant. In 2020, in a hotel, and I went through those challenges that we faced, right? And there were struggles from having to try to figure out how to operate a business and also have to protect people with their safety up in Los Angeles and here. And so I think that created a lot of perspectives, a lot of things where even with my stoicism, I still had to deal with the emotions from myself, my staff, everybody around. I serve also, I'm a member here at this chamber, but I'm also served as the executive committee board for the Oceanside Chamber because that's where my business is. I was on the board of KOCT Public TV. I'm a member of the Agua Hedionda Lagoon. I'm a member of the High Noon Rotary, and we're about to do Oktoberfest, and I'm sweating bullets volunteering for that. And I just really appreciate everything that I'm able to do. I feel like this position shouldn't be selfish, it should be selfless, and the background should prove that I've been that this entire time. So thank you guys very much. Kevin Shin, Carlsbad District 2.
Away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyler Collins. Carlsbad has a choice. On the one hand, we can strive towards a better future. On the other, we can continue sliding towards the Sacramento status quo. At last week's city council meeting, our mayor, he's sitting right there, he described Sacramento as a bully. And I agree with you, Mayor. I'm running for this office because I want to secure our city's future and push back on that bully. Thank you. I want us to live as we want to live, not as that bully wants us to live. My opponent, on the other hand, has gone on record to say that he would rather collaborate with that bully. Since when does one fight the good fight by giving the bully half of what it wants? Heck, we might as well give the bully our lunch. Well, I'm not saying we can do this alone. We need help from our regional partners. Like us, they're also under the heavy hand of Sacramento. And we are united in our fight for our values and our quality of life. Together, we will win. Consider joining me on a journey that relies upon our fellow neighbors, citizens, and regional partners. All journeys have a goal, a vision. For me, that vision is what Carlsbad has always been and aspired to be, a village by the sea with a vibrant commercial, retail, and high-paying jobs economy. As a high-tech software engineer myself, I'm exposed daily to futuristic tools and possibilities that I believe can enhance and improve our quality of life. In a way, we're only beginning to see what is possible. As your councilman, I want us to be a leader in that space. I want to restore our city to its original vision using technology, smart thinking, and less politics to resolve issues that face us today, including homelessness, crime, noise, and traffic. We must believe that everything is in play and our future is bright. I want to be that guide for our city. So I humbly ask for your vote and your support. Again, my name is Tyler Collins. Thank you.
Thank you all for those statements. Now we are going to move into the question and answer section. You will each have 2 minutes to answer these questions, and we are going to start with Kevin. Two-part question. What is your vision for the city of Carlsbad, and what are your long-term political aspirations?
Okay. Okay, so my vision for Carlsbad, I came down here in about 1998, and I remember being here just as 6, 7 years after I went from Elm Street to the village and whatnot, and we still remember the culture of what this place is. It's beautiful in the arts, everybody's kind to each other, they don't just go and I remember coming down here, and I remember people talking to me at the grocery store, and coming from Los Angeles, it was completely I had no idea what was going on. And I fell in love with this place because of that, and that's why I wanted to raise my children. So the future is bright here. I don't like when people come around here and say that Carlsbad's got so much dysfunction or whatnot. We're here for a reason. We love this city. And you guys are here for a reason because we're trying to make this place elite. And so we're always in that A percentile. We want to maintain it. So I totally understand that. My opponent's right. I do want to collaborate. I've never been on a board in any type of panel I've ever been where I sit there and all I do is I talk trash. What I do is I say, what are the issues, and let's go fix them. Because as soon as you start doing stuff like that, it becomes extremely negative, and all it does is create toxicity. And I don't do that. I've never done it. I was raised that way. No matter what anyone says about me negatively, I'm not going to respond back that way. So I appreciate concerns. I appreciate paraphrasing what people do to me or whatnot. But then to finish this thing, I would say I just have all the acumens. I've been in the city. I've worked for business. I was in the Marine Corps. I just hope you guys believe that character counts the most, integrity counts the most. And so the long-term vision is just to maintain that character. And if you think I can't pencil out stuff, I say you come into my business and you see me watch how I got to run payroll and how I have to do everything in order to make sure that my employees strive and thrive. As for political career, I just want to get elected for now. There's no really long-term because, if this doesn't happen, I'm golfing, so I don't know yet. Good question, but it's as far as I got so far.
And a reminder, these are not my questions. They're your questions for them. They're not my questions. So we're going to move on to Tyler and let Tyler go next.
Thank
You want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, please do.
What is your vision for the city of Carlsbad, and what are your long-term political aspirations?
Thank you for that. My vision for Carlsbad is a vibrant city dealing well with the challenges of the 21st century, maintaining our values and what we are, a village by the sea, with a vibrant economy, commercial and retail sectors. I want Carlsbad to be a leader And I want us to maintain our tight-knit communities. And as your council member, I'll ensure that we have the protection needed to ensure community safety and well-being. As someone who was born and raised in Southern California, I also have great love for Carlsbad. This is the place that I want to raise my kids with my wife. And I'm here today because I want our city to continue being a great place, a safe place that's well run, so that my kids can have the same opportunities that I did when I was growing up. In terms of my future political career, I'm just focused on Carlsbad right now. I just want to see this be a successful city and a well-run city. So I'm not thinking about what's 10 or 20 years from now. I'm just thinking about Carlsbad today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. We jump over to Teresa. Vision for Carlsbad and any future political aspirations?
Great, thank you for the question. Carlsbad actually developed a community vision. I don't know if you know about this, and it lays out our values. The council looked at that and decided that those were all still in place. And they include quality of life values like open space and vibrant economy, and protecting our natural resources. These are all things that we work on right now, and I will continue to work on for us. But what I really think is at the heart of our community vision is a community that has this character as a small, quaint beach town as we grow. Even as we grow, because we're required to grow by state law and add new housing, and we will continue to grow as every other city in the state is going to grow. We need to maintain our character as Carlsbad. So what is that? You know, this beautiful beach town on the coast in Southern California in San Diego County, and our place in that needs to maintain a lovely quality of life where we're watching out for our people, we have a neighborly attitude, we have civil discourse, we're not attacking each other, we're not fear-mongering, we're working together collaboratively to solve issues. So that's the vision for Carlsbad. And as for me, I've been working in government and building government partnerships for 23 years, my entire career since I graduated from USC, and I went on to work for a state senator in my hometown of Pasadena. Pasadena grew really fast, and I am really glad that I live in Carlsbad now. I still have plenty of love for Pasadena, but I know what happens when a city becomes very dense, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen here. This is why I advocate for our city. It's why I push back on state measures, why I'm part of the League of California Cities, why I chair the legislative subcommittee for the city council, because I know that these are things that we need to keep at our city. I also know that our city is what matters the most, and for me, my aspiration is to be here at the city.
Thank you, Teresa. Greg, we'll let you answer. What is your vision for the city of Carlsbad, and what, if any, are your long-term political aspirations?
Thank you. My vision for this city is the reason why my wife and I moved here in the first place. We saw this place as a safe, beautiful, clean, friendly place to raise your families. And so my vision is doing everything possible that I can to preserve that. But my vision is not the only one that matters. It's all of ours. That's what we want as a city, is to be able to have a governing body where we can come together and we can talk about the vision plans that the city has, what we like, what we would like to change, how we're going to manage our growth. And I think that is really the biggest and the most important thing that I would like to emphasize is we all have a vision of what Carlsbad is. We need to be the ones making a decision for how Carlsbad grows and what our future is, how we reach that vision. I want the decision making here at our level and not at other levels. Let's keep our destiny in our hands. Oh, well, thank you. Sorry, as for long-term politics, my joke is I am a candidate running in California who's endorsed by the Republican Party, so I have no political future in this state. So I am tied right here to Carlsbad.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, bear with me. The next question's a little longer. We'll start with you on this, Teresa, so you can jump in when I'm finished reading this short novel. For 30 years, the city of Carlsbad had had a blanket moratorium on new food and/or beverage drive-thrus. As a result, Carlsbad has limited drive-through food options and no drive-through coffee shops. This policy was created in response to the opening of Legoland and fear we would have a sea of fast food, low-budget eateries surrounding Legoland. Today, many quality food options will not consider opening without the option of a drive-through. Additionally, the rapid adoption of electric cars and hybrid cars and the technological advances on traditional engines has minimized the environmental impacts of drive-thrus as well. Please share your philosophy or thoughts on the possibility of future food and/or beverage drive-thrus in Carlsbad. Teresa, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. This is one of those ones that puts me in a tough space because I'm currently on the city council, and if this is on our agenda, this is telling you how I would vote. But I can tell you what I see that is pros and cons of this, because I have thought through this issue very carefully, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. So when Chick-fil-A came to the city, they knew that they had to find a way to have a sit-down restaurant because this city has a moratorium since the 90s on drive-thrus. That means that In-N-Out and many other fast food places that exist in the city are there because they were grandfathered in. They pre-existed the moratorium. So that has been the law in the city, and there were reasons for it. I wasn't on the council, this was in the 90s, but the reasons for it included that having sit-down restaurants versus drive-thrus is a community building thing. When you have people, families come and sit down and go to a restaurant, it builds a sense of place. It's placemaking versus somebody just running through or driving through with money and then getting their food or whatever they're buying and going. The exception to this is pharmacies. We do have drive-through pharmacies all over the city, and those continue to be allowed. So I guess it's environmental and it's a sense of placemaking is the reason not to change this ordinance, and then the reason to possibly change it would be to allow the businesses to find a new way to make more revenue in the city. So those are the things to balance. I always try to keep an open mind on the city council and listen to everyone's input. So I'm not a closed-minded person. I will listen to what everybody has to say and continue to seek input from folks. But that's what we have now, and I do believe this is coming up on our agenda, so I won't be able to tell you exactly how I'm going to vote in advance. Otherwise, I'll be conflicted out for having a bias. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Teresa. Greg, I can't imagine you want me to repeat the question. It's regarding.
I was hoping you would repeat it again in its entirety.
Take it away.
Not only do I not need you to repeat it, but I will keep this pretty simple. I am in favor of changing that policy. I think the reasons why people were concerned about that make sense, but we have seen surrounding communities have drive-thrus. We have not seen the impacts that we were afraid of, and I think that we are losing out on business opportunities here in the city. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Greg. Tyler.
I'll keep it short and simple as well. So first off, I'd like to acknowledge drive-thrus and the moratorium on them that perhaps held some water back in the day when Legoland was being opened and there was still a lot of Carlsbad that could be developed in a certain way. I think this might have made sense to avoid what might be called the McDonaldization of Carlsbad. I think that was a real concern. But we're in a very different era now. Carlsbad is mostly built out, and there are a lot of businesses. For example, the new Chick-fil-A, which is open right by the In-N-Out, all the infrastructure is in place to have it have a drive-through. And I think drive-thrus would be a good thing, first for financial reasons. Our city is projected to have a deficit in financial year 26, and anything we can do to grow revenue, as Kevin Shin likes to say, is also a good thing. So drive-thrus are a great way to grow revenue. What we're doing right now is we've actually handed all this revenue over to Vista and Oceanside. If you look, we're surrounded by a wall of drive-throughs. So let's take that revenue to us, the Carlsbad citizens and taxpayers. Second, I think it's a lifestyle thing. For example, my wife, she loves to get Starbucks. In the morning, when she's pressed for time, she'd love to go to a drive-through Starbucks. I think that things like that are in fitting with the character of the community, and I think could enhance our quality of life here. So yes, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Kevin?
Yeah, thank you for endorsing me, by the way. I appreciate that. So, okay, and thank you for asking a restaurant question to a restaurateur. This is just phenomenal for me to be able to answer this. This will be a little bit long-winded. You'll have to tell me when the time's up. So, drive-throughs, I am favor for it to an exception, right? We don't want to see what we're fearing, which is traffic congestion and whatnot. And that's where you rely on staff and you rely other modelings when you talk to other cities and see, hey, how did this work? How did it not work? Your place seems to have way too much of this or that. And you figure things out and you work amongst committees, boards, and this is the collaboration portion that I'm talking about. Next thing, being a restaurateur in a sit-down restaurant, I will tell you first and foremost, it is the most difficult type of restaurant to do. So as a member and as a board of the chamber and talking to the California Restaurant Association, when we have our collaborative talks, they are not working anymore. The model doesn't work because of the inflationary pressures that we have, right? So we have to work in trying to bring that pressure back down until we can get that going. That's the one part. The other part is everybody is right here. This is a different time now. It's a lot of dual income. We have to, and we're raising our children. And if you're raising children, sorry, Clay and Leilani, if you're raising kids, you're nonstop as a parent, right? You wake up sweating the entire experience, and you have to get things going, get them to the soccer games, you got to get them to all the practices, you got to get them the hula, whatever it is, and you want to have that food there. And there's nothing wrong these days about getting that food and then showing up where everyone else is going to be to build your community, as opposed to saying you're going to sit down and be able to do that. And as a restaurateur, I wish in my sit-down restaurant, all of you would be able to sit down and have that, but I also know that there's other options that need to take place now. That's why a big portion of my revenue comes from like your Ubers and all of that, because I need to expedite amount of turn of tables in order to make myself stay in business. So I'm in favor for it with exceptions of how it's going to affect our traffic more than anything else. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Next question. In the past few years, the topic of PLAs, project labor agreements, has surfaced in our community. These agreements give preference to labor organizations on public capital improvement projects. Please share your views on project labor agreements. And we're going to start with Greg on this.
Okay, thank you. So I mentioned that I am a commercial airline pilot. I am a union employee myself. I think that a union's interaction is between them and their company. I am not in favor of showing favor or the other. No rewards or working against a company because they employ union contracts. I think our waste management contract was a mistake. We're spending $2 million more over a 10-year period, even though the competitor had a better environmental rating because they were a union company. Again, as a union member myself, I don't think that's an appropriate, I don't think that's appropriate for representatives of you to be making the city make those kind of statements. Of course, we support people working, but EDCO had employees as well. Unions are between them and the companies. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. Teresa?
Thank you. Is this okay? So I have been part of a union only once, and that was when I was a professor at Maricosta College. I belonged to our union there, but I have a lot of friends and family who are members of unions, and I know that the point of having a labor union is to protect the employees, to make sure that workers' rights are represented, so people pay union dues to the union, and the union has representation for them. They negotiate for benefits and salaries and all those things. We have many unions at the city, and I sit on the authorizing body, not the negotiating team, but the authorizing body for those agreements. I support labor. I support the idea of having unions to protect employees. We know that the plight of workers is very serious, and the cost of living affects those who are on the margins the most. We have to make sure that we don't exacerbate our cost of living issues and rising costs of living by having no protections for workers. So I do support workers' rights, I support unions, and I support PLAs. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Kevin.
Yes, so project labor agreements. So first and foremost, just so you guys understand, I was a Culver City firefighter for 20 years, which means I was a part of a labor association, right? So it was Culver City Firefighters Local 1927. And that is a city employee position, just like all the city employee positions that we have. So here we are in charge of all of our staff, or hundreds of staff that are all a part of labor. And so that's one side of what I understand, is that I understand that we want to provide the best for our labor. Now there's another side of it, right? So I'm also executive board of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, and I deal with contractors, and I deal with aspects where we're always trying to get the fair shake. So there's components of the PLA that I totally do agree on. I think there's things where we have to make sure that the people that our city is going to give money to get projects done for our city, we want to make sure that those contractors are doing the right thing to their employees. Because imagine right now, imagine we get the cheapest general contractor to do one of our fire stations, and we find out that 20 of them are illegals, and we don't have Americans working, right? Because that exists in the general contractor world, and I'm sorry to say that it does, but it does. And so we have to maintain that balance. So there's components of the project labor agreement that I'm steadfast for, and then there's some I have questions about, like we all do. But I never answer some questions with full support or not, because that's the gray area we're in when it comes to dealing with governance, right? We all have a different mindset in how we want to think. And I try to get that balanced approach by listening to what everybody has to say and figuring out what's the appropriate answers. So can we a la carte portions of the good things, like having insurance that we know that our general contractors are doing everything fair and foremost, and then that bid goes that way? And if they don't, they're penalized. If I have illegal immigrants working on my fire station, they should be punished for that, right? So that's just where I stand behind that.
Thank you, Kevin. Tyler.
Well, first off, I think the preferred term is undocumented immigrants, but correct me if I'm wrong. So my stance on PLAs is very simple. I don't believe, in general, PLAs are in the interest of the taxpayer. They're not in the interest of the taxpayer for a very simple reason. They add 10 to 20% on the cost of any project. Now, let's take that in a concrete example. We can look at the Monroe Street pool renovations. That's going to add, if we had a PLA on that, that would add several $1 million. We're getting the exact same thing. We're paying a lot more money. If I were to give you two cars, and I said car A and car B, they're the same car, but this one's $10,000 more, what car are you going to pick? Well, I think we know what the answer is. And as your city council member, as part of leading us towards that bright vision of the future, I want to safeguard our hard-earned taxpayer money and make right choices for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Question number 4. Homelessness has become a significant issue throughout the county. Carlsbad homelessness count went up significantly at the most recent point-in-time count. Share how you think the city of Carlsbad could seek to solve this challenge and do better. We're going to start with Tyler.
Thank you. I think this is one of the most pressing issues of our time. Homelessness is a city, county, and state issue. And only with the assistance of our regional partners are we going to be able to solve this. And we also need to hold our regional partners accountable. As your city councilman, I want to enable our social services and our security services to give better help to those who need it, those with severe mental illnesses, and those who are struggling with substance abuse. Sometimes, true compassion is giving people help even when they're unable to make the choice for themselves. And actually, a recent Supreme Court decision has enabled us to do just that. So I think what Carlsbad needs to do is enforce the encampment ban that's on our books, and we need to try and get these people help with local county agencies. So let's look at what hasn't worked. We need to look at what hasn't worked and stop doing that. We can take the example of Windsor Point. So a council member actually said that Carlsbad needs to do more of this low barrier, affordable housing, such as Windsor Point. I would ask my opponent, does he think that's a good thing? In my experience, Windsor Point has been a human disaster. It's been a disaster both for the people living there and the people in the surrounding neighborhoods. My friend Dennis is here today, and I've seen his neighborhood and I've talked with him, and he told me that he has to take his 4-year-old daughter to school every day. They walk over trash and drug paraphernalia. I don't think Dennis's family is living their Carlsbad dream, and I think we need to do something about it. So I think we need to learn from our mistakes, and I'm all for helping the homeless, but I don't think that low barrier, affordable housing such as Windsor Point is the path forward. Thank you.
All right, this one touches my heart because I've spent 20 years responding in Los Angeles to the homeless, and it counts to almost like 40% these days of the call volume that I go on. So you're talking about 10 to 12 homeless that I respond on every day. Not just seeing them on the street, but touching them, hearing them, and knowing where they came from. Here's the things that have changed so far, a couple things. One, we all know the pandemic screwed all of our mental health, right? And it allowed people who were really on the edge all the way off, okay? Now we're also seeing with inflationary pressures, we're seeing families and elderly out there in the streets as well. So with our heart, we can handle that. The council's already doing good stuff. There's a grant that is, just like Tyler was mentioning, that's already been passed, and it's for La Posada here, and it's for Interfaith and Oceanside. And what our homeless outreach team can do currently is be able to identify who needs the help and get them there, and then they have navigation centers to get them in the right locations. They're doing a great, the council's already doing good stuff there. I'm not gonna say all of a sudden I'm gonna show up and like, bam, that's everything solved. What I will stress on, though, is that there's a component that we're scared of. What we're scared of is that there's a group of mental health individuals that are so incapacitated with being able to handle themselves, and we see them, right? And I'm not demonizing these people. I feel so sorry for them because I respond on them. These are the individuals that are out there that are 30 to 40-year-old men, and they're just walking aimlessly on the streets, and you can't even get eye contact with them when you meet them. They start getting very vicious. I've been in enough fights. I've been spit at. I've been everything on because of these individuals. And we're having a tough time trying to figure out what to do. The state has passed an opportunity for conservatorship. And I believe in that because this entire time we're now making the public have to sit there in fear of these individuals, and we're not allowing that person to be safe because we're allowing them to just go out there, you know, free-willing and doing probably in non-good behavior / criminal activities. And so we need to just kind of shift towards that policy. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Kevin. Teresa.
Thank you. When I joined the council in 2020, this was actually the top priority that came out of a budget planning workshop of the council. We decided that we needed to address homelessness immediately, and we needed to invest more in it. So we actually revamped our homelessness action plan. It has strategic areas in it, and it has many pieces. And the reason is because there's no quick fix to solving homelessness. And I feel like there are people that will give you, a silver bullet, and that's just not how it works. In 2021, we approved this plan to organize our city activities in 3 areas: shelter and housing, outreach and access, and public safety. The plan is working. Since 2022, this plan has transitioned 142 people into permanent housing and prevented homelessness for dozens more. We collaborate with the other levels of government, whether it's a regional task force, whether it's a county supervisor's office. We also collaborate with other partners, nonprofit partners in the community, and we contract with them, whether it's Brother Benno's or Interfaith Community Services or La Posada. There are a number of partners in the community that we're collaborating with. When there is an immediate request for assistance, we send out a hot team with a social worker, one of our contracted social workers. We continue to adapt our approach to changing circumstances, to changing funding. We go after those grants, and we just secured that big one with Oceanside and also with court decisions. You know about the grants passed decision that recently came out. And last month, after the decision, we directed staff to bring back options to strengthen our existing encampment ordinance. It's called the unlawful camping ordinance, and we were one of the first in the whole region to have an unlawful camping ordinance. But we are strengthening it, and I specifically asked us to include a prohibition on sleeping in cars in Carlsbad. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg.
Yeah, homelessness is one of everybody's top concerns. I'm glad that we have a homeless action plan, but just because it's working for a couple people, I don't think we should be looking to it as a success. Homelessness is up 86% in this city. Now, Teresa and I were both took part in the point in time count in the beginning of the year, getting that data. It is, it doesn't make you feel good seeing people living in those kind of conditions. The first thing we have to do is start understanding we can't be addressing homelessness as a one-size-fits-all problem. This is not just an issue about affordability. There are people who are, the most people you are likely to encounter living on the street, it's not because of money issues. It's because of drugs, and it's because of severe mental illness. We have to stop addressing the problem we are. The old saying, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. That grant money that we got, it is tied to housing first initiatives. That's what's got us into this problem in the first place. That is what has destroyed San Francisco, is destroying Los Angeles and downtown San Diego. We should not be bringing that here. So what can we do? Well, the first thing is change the mindset. We need to be working with groups like Solutions for Change, the San Diego Rescue Mission, that do not accept taxpayer dollars. They have over 70% success rate because they are addressing this with a mindset of accountability. Now, everybody gets worried about the heart issue. This is what I say to that. When somebody comes to if your friend or family came to your house and said, I need a place to stay, would your answer be, make yourself at home on my lawn? The way we treat our friends and family, that is the real humanity. Letting people suffer and die on the streets, that is cruel.
Thank you, Greg. We are now going to move into our series of yes or no questions. Each candidate has in front of them a yes and no sign. And we would ask that you hold up one or the other in response to these questions. Again, bear with me as I read these questions. The voters, number one, the voters in the County of San Diego will be asked to vote on Measure G in November. Measure G would create a perpetual half-cent sales tax in the county to fund Sandag infrastructure projects. The projects that are being promoted to encourage North County voters to support this initiative are nearly identical to the project Sandag shared 20 years ago when we were asked to fund the current half-cent sales tax we already pay and will continue paying through 2048. Do you support Measure G? Thank you. We're going to move on to question 2. Proposition 36 has been crafted and is supported by the California District Attorneys Association to help fix consequences that have become commonplace since the passage of Prop 47 10 years ago. Specifically, Proposition 36 would increase punishments for certain retail thefts, including smash and grabs and drug crimes. Do you support Proposition 36? Question 3. Proposition 33 is being proposed on the November ballot to allow local governments to enact rent control. While high rents are a concern for everyone, opponents argue that passage of Proposition 33 would stifle construction of new housing. Do you support Proposition 33? All right, thank you, candidates. Now we have some audience questions. Due to time, you will have 60 seconds to answer these questions, and I will ask them of you as soon as I have them. We may take a commercial break to see which dog food you should be purchasing at your next visit to the... Here we go, question 1. What's your position on Carlsbad local control of Palomar Airport? And we will start with Tyler, and I won't interrupt, we'll go right down the table. Tyler, take it away.
I think local control is very important. That applies all the way from building to the airport. In my understanding, Palomar Airport is actually quite unique in the degree to which the city is supposed to have control over airport operations. I have heard that the new scheduled American Airlines flights, which is going to be starting in February 2025, has a departure time of 6:30 or 6:45. Now that seems to me entirely too early. I understand that they're supposed to be catching connections in Phoenix, but it really seems unfair to our neighbors, and people in District 2 have a really good understanding of this, that if jets are taking off before 7 a.m. in our quiet hour period, it's just completely unfair. And I think the city should do what we can to negotiate and try and at least get that honored as a start. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is in District 2, and it's one of my top 3 priorities that I have for the district because I'm responsible for that portion, right? So for me, I'm always about local control, all the way down to the individual aspects of being able to be free around here. So when it comes to this part, just also know this, you're also in charge and you vote for the county too. Those individuals that are there and the FAA and everything else, they're beholden on you. So I believe the power is in us, not just the person on the dais, but people here that are advocating for our ability to keep it the way it's been as much as possible, so long as we have the power to vote to do it so. And so the county has to recognize that, because in the end, they may want to have a certain master plan in their minds, but that's not our city's master plan. And if one day that takes place, great. Is it an economic driver, the city? Absolutely. And it is for the county and it is for the region. I'm not going to say that that's not the case. And I'm not here to get rid of the airport or anything. But the changes and the way we're going to have our culture set up is based off of us as the individuals and as voters.
Teresa, 60 seconds.
Thank you. I always fight for local control. I just want to be really clear on that. I mentioned it earlier. I'm on the City Council Legislative Subcommittee, and I'm very involved with League of California Cities, which fights for local control for cities specifically. When it comes to the airport, you may know it gets a little bit complicated because the airport is owned by the county and flights and air services are governed by the FAA. We have been advocating, we have been pushing. The city has made a stance. We've said we don't want it to grow. We don't want it to be much bigger. We have voluntary noise abatement. We've got a lot of different measures in place to keep the airport as it is. But the county and the FAA may have different plans. So we can only do what is within our authority, which is to keep it as it is. There's quite a few things that we can do to make sure that the citizens of Carlsbad, our neighbors, can keep it as it is and make sure that it doesn't physically expand, geographically purchasing land near the airport, because we don't want that. Thank you.
You, Greg?
You know, when we talked about our visions, I talked about how our visions are different, but we need to be making those decisions at our level. And I think this is exactly one of those examples. I'm in complete agreement with everybody up here. I want the city to be in control, in the driver's seat, in the cockpit of what happens with Palomar Airport. And then we at our level can decide how we proceed from there. But I absolutely, the question was, do I want local control? Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Greg. We're going to jump to the next question. Can you talk about how you plan to help with the anticipated financial issues I'm assuming with the city, in the next year? Okay, thank you. The financial the issues that face the city in the next year, can you speak to that? And we will start with Tyler and go down the table again.
So this is one of the cornerstones of my campaign. As one of the three things that are most important to me when I get into office is financial responsibility. Our city has been lucky in that we are one of the most well-to-do cities in North County, and we're able to provide great services for our citizens. In order to preserve that quality of service, in order to preserve what we have, we need to have responsible and prudent planning for our financial future. So what I'm aware of is that there is a projected deficit in financial year 26. I'm not sure if that question is referring exactly to that, but that is what I'm aware of. And I've had meetings actually with city staff going in very much detail about the history of the city in terms of its finances and what we need to do to fix the problem. So I think we need to take a hard look at how we can grow revenue and cut expenses. Because at the end of the day, if our city cannot have a balanced budget, then we can't serve our citizens effectively. Thank you.
Kevin.
Yeah, a couple things. This is definitely a platform of mine. So that was one of the first things I saw. I said, let me see the books every time I look at a business. And I said, oh man, the projections are definitely going, based off of inflationary pressures and everything going on. Like, it's not just our city, it's going across the board. And I said, I'm going to champion for that we're not going to be in a deficit. And then our city council, what they did is they told the city manager, we're not going to go in a deficit. And he said, we're not. We're going to go beyond that and give you a little surplus on top. So, right now that's being managed appropriately, and that's just the continued path that I want to take. So I'm not saying the sky is falling yet. Services may be cut, and what I don't want to do, instead of increase taxes by a percentage rate, is what Tyler was mentioning, what he probably read, is that I want to increase our business. So there's a Chamber of Commerce here. I'm in another Chamber of Commerce. If my business in Oceanside makes 10% more because the city helped me make 10% more, guess where those sales tax goes to? It goes back to them with 10% more. And if we can keep continuing to chip away at that with our small businesses and our large businesses and keep asking them, what is it going to take for us to help you? Then that's how we're going to be able to improve this system and give our services that we need.
Teresa.
I want to be very clear. Carlsbad is a very well-managed city, and we do have a balanced budget with money in reserve every single year. I also want to fact check. We no longer have a structural deficit in our 5-year forecast, so I'm not sure where that information came from. We haven't had to ask the public for additional revenues. In fact, our council is unanimous about that. We've decided to cut costs, not essential services, but cut other costs. We've sought grant funding, and we've become more efficient. So we haven't had to go out and ask anybody if they'd be interested in a tax or anything like that. At the Carlsbad Municipal Water District, which the council also serves as the board of, our annual water rate increase was just 1.4% last year. I want to be very clear. There are numbers floating out there that are not factual, and that is factual. We have kept fees low for resident use of our facilities and increased the number of facilities, including our parks. I've opened a park and a dog park, 2 more parks, and a community garden in La Costa. We are doing very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Greg.
I think the concern is not where we're at right now, it's where we're headed. And yes, that's true. We are not forecasted in the next 5 years, but according to our city's financial staff, they say it's 7 years. So we are on a negative glide slope headed towards a future debt. And that's not because we're an irresponsible city. That mainly is because of inflation. So we need to be getting on this now and addressing this as a serious problem. So we need to be looking at our budget with a closer microscope. Why are we funding vacancies? Why are we continuing to have grant-funded positions when the grants are no longer there? And we should be looking into contracting out positions. The ultimate answer here is I do not want to see Carlsbad do what almost every other neighbor is doing, and that is raising taxes. We cannot be doing that, especially in these economic times.
Thank you, Greg. Our next question from the audience. Are you in support of the citywide sales tax that the city manager is proposing? Again, at the chamber, we do not know if he is doing that. We are just, so you can speak to that. We'll start with Teresa, go to Greg, Kevin, and Tyler.
Okay, I'll be really quick on this one. I just spoke about this. The city council was unanimously opposed to the idea of going out for a sales tax. So there is no proposed sales tax in Carlsbad. Thanks.
Greg?
If there was, no, I would not be in support of a sales tax increase.
Kevin?
Yeah, ditto across the board. I mean, that's, if we were to say who wants increased sales taxes, who's going to raise their hand, right? So, no.
Tyler?
I think I'll just be succinct and hold this sign, so, no.
Thank you all for that. Next question from the audience. What is your opinion of marijuana dispensaries in the city of Carlsbad? And we will start with Tyler and go down the table again.
I understand that some people may look at this as a way to grow revenue for the city. I think there is some concern that if you start to open these dispensaries, especially in the village, that you're going to turn this more from what it is right now, in my view. You have a lot of very family-friendly activities, and there's also some partying. But if we start introducing dispensaries in parts of our city, it's going to lean more towards that sort of rowdy crowd. And I'm not sure that that's going to be good for the character of our city.
Kevin?
Never seen a rowdy stoner in my entire life, so I would say, sorry, it was a good one, right? So, I think it should be explored. I can't give you a definitive answer, whoever asked that question, and whether it is or not. I kind of don't like the idea of, and I'm sorry to say for the city of Vista, you know, they kind of like overexpanded it to the point where all of a sudden even like the businesses themselves are having a tough time because they're diluted now. And then there's clearly public safety issues behind it as well. Is it an economic driver? Yes. But are we living in 2024? Yes. Does everyone from, you know, from the senior homes down to, you know, adult usage take place? Yes. Is this, was it a archaic, barbaric thing that we did by keeping it illegal and keeping people incarcerated for it? Absolutely. You know, if you were to say anything, alcohol is the one that's causing most of our issues here right now. So I'm in favor of exploring it and then determining, and after looking at other types of cities doing this, whether or not this is a good deal for our city.
Thank you, Kevin. Teresa?
Thank you. I've been following this issue for some time, and I have watched the evolution of people becoming more open to medicinal marijuana use, and that becoming legal, and then having recreational, and that becoming legal. You can even grow 6 plants in your own home. But I haven't seen that interest in Carlsbad, in our public, in our community. So I would like to see that come from the people, if that's what the people want, and not be pushed people to council down. It really should be something that the people tell us that they want. Thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, this opinion has nothing to do with my personal opinions on people smoking marijuana, but we have models that we can compare to and look to. You know, being down in District 4, Encinitas is right next to us, and I've spoken with many business owners down there. They are struggling with it. There are federal regulations with dispensaries. There are difficulties handling money. There's a lot of cash on hand. So I think there are a lot more problems with this than to give a simple answer. And I don't want Carlsbad to be the place where we're experimenting, trying to figure this one out.
Thank you. Next question, and we're going to go to Kevin, Tyler, and then Greg and Teresa. Can you tell us about a project or successful program you personally have been in charge of in the city of Carlsbad? Kevin?
It's happening right now. So Saturday's Oktoberfest. So I'm in charge of the signage and design and helping. I came in like last minute and be able to pull that together. I say that's the project that I did that you guys can be like recognized with. What am I really doing here? That's the most important thing. You're looking at them at the back seats over there, Clay and Leilani, my 2 daughters. So we all know that those who are parents, that there's nothing else that paramounts like the success of the city than to make sure that they're successful. So I do everything I can in regards to the PTA and every school that they've attended so far, that I'm a part of that community. And that's kind of where I've gotten my support here, is where I felt confident that I'd be able to run, because I've just been time and time again, I've been with the community. They've all watched my children grow. I'm here to watch your children grow, and I'm here to watch them to become successful as well.
Tyler?
So for those of you who don't know me that well, I'm actually a professional software engineer. I got my bachelor's in industrial and systems engineering and my master's in data science. So I have not been in the world of politics very long. My only exposure has been that I've been chair of the Carlsbad Housing Commission, and I'm also on the board, or I'm on the Palomar College Independent Citizens Oversight Committee. In terms of accomplishments, I think that I've learned a lot about the process of politics and how to work with people on both sides of the aisle. And I learned, for example, we have one of our people from the Housing Commission here today. And I've learned how to listen to citizens, hear their voices, and try to bring those issues to council. Windsor Point is an ongoing disaster, but I've done my best as chair of the Housing Commission to try and bring that up to council and make that voice heard.
Greg?
So having lived in Carlsbad for 9 years and having my commercial airline job, and I was still actively involved in the Marines up until December when I retired as a lieutenant colonel. I don't have anything specific to point to in terms of what I've done here in Carlsbad, but I think the question is really kind of trying to focus on, am I involved in my community and do I value service? And as I was just talking about, I contributed over 20 years of service to the United States Marines, and so I very much value service. Oh, thank you. And in terms of being involved in my community, a great example is with our kids' school. It's a private school, Catholic school, and there was concern about safety. And I'm part of the safety committee, and we created a group called Eagle Eyes so that we can have dads participating in the school and watching over our kids when they're at Friday Mass. So yes, I do like to be involved, and that's why I'm sitting here too.
Teresa?
I'm here because I have developed deep roots in this community. I love Carlsbad. When I moved here from Pasadena, it was to be near my mom, who had retired here as an LAUSD school teacher. I was a single mom. I have my daughter. She was 12. We moved here, and my daughter went to Aviara Oaks Middle School and then Sage Creek High School, and I got involved in the schools. I also founded my business here. I've been a business owner in Carlsbad for 13 years. I've been very involved with the Chamber of Commerce, chairing the Government Affairs Committee and the Technology Committee. I've been a volunteer at city events, things like our egg extravaganza and our Christmas at the Rancho at Leo Carrillo Ranch for many years, with my daughter through the National Charity League, where I sat on the board, also sitting on the board of MAC Project. For 6 years, MAC runs 7 affordable housing communities in San Diego County and all the low-income Head Start programs in North County. I'm a community leader. This is why I'm here, and I'm proud to serve on the City Council and be a business owner here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question has been touched upon already this evening. What is your opinion of the Windsor Point project in the village of Carlsbad? We will start with Tyler to Kevin and then Teresa to Greg.
So as has been said, I think we've all talked about Windsor Point, and in my opinion, like I've said before, I think it's a human disaster both for the people who are living there and for the neighbors. I understand that council has had some very hard choices about what they can do with the situation now that we're here. And I'm not trying to blame the current council for their current actions as regards to Windsor Point. There's very intense legal restrictions on what they can do. My focus is going to be about the future. what can we do to improve the situation to the best of our ability for those people living there and not repeat our mistake? How can we help the homeless without putting our fellow citizens in the same sort of situation again? Thank you.
Kevin?
Yeah, so we have an issue with like a bill of goods, right? So I'm a veteran, I was in the Marine Corps for 12 years, and when this project came about, it was in regards to helping the homeless, and then the grant funding changed, and it became an open vessel, right? So that was the problem, and then on top of it, there was just the timing of an alignment with poor management. So that now we've got an issue on our hands, and clearly this is a day in, day out issue. What I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna go to council and talk trash about council, okay? That's first and foremost. I'm here to collaborate, make sure we find a solution, and I can't shut people down by trying to create a solution. I gotta bring all parties in here and see what takes place, and we can explore. They've already been exploring. Clearly the pressures on the council right now has been there nonstop. They feel it, they're experiencing it. Anyone who gets elected is gonna feel the exact same thing. So the goal is to have good sit-down conversations with all the council members where we're at. I've talked to Mandy Mills in extense. She's working hard as she can, trust me when I'm talking to her often enough, to find those solutions. So I wish it didn't happen the way it was, and I wish it was meant specifically for our veterans.
Thank you, Kevin. Teresa?
Thank you, and I hope everybody understands that Windsor Point is a facility that was designed, as Kevin just said, as a Carlsbad veterans homeless facility, and it's since changed. It changed over a period of time that the contracts were being signed and was approved by a previous council who didn't understand what the contracts actually said and what the ties were to the funding. So that all happened before I was on council, opened in 2021, and since then we've experienced a lot of crime, calls for service, and a lot of community complaints about this. The council took immediate action. We have had Affirmed, which is the developer, come speak to us and held him to task. I know that I told him there's no reason why we can't have secure entry and exit from that facility. We've talked with our police chief, we've talked with our Housing and Homeless Services Department about ways that we can improve this. We are bound to legal contracts that do not allow us to shut it down, but we can find ways to improve the facility, to make sure that it's safer, and to make sure that everyone understands how this cannot happen again. Thank you.
Great.
So we're all in complete agreement that this is a failure of a program. Almost 1,000 calls now for 911 assistance since its opening. That's insane. Why is it a failure? This is a housing first model. This is grant money that is tied to taxpayer dollars. It is why, I'll tell you, the number one lesson that we need to learn is stop taking grant money that ties you to ridiculous outcomes like this. Windsor Point should never ever happen again. So what are we going to do about it? Well, I think we need to go public. I think Carlsbad needs to really start, what's the expression, shouting from the rooftops and teaching California a lesson overall. This has got to stop. We're in this because California could get us out of this. I guarantee you. The county could do something to help us get out of this. We need to make the people that duped our city council pay so that not only do they never want to do this again in Carlsbad, but nowhere in this state.
All right, thank you, Greg. Okay, so before we go to the next question, we have 5 more audience questions, and that would complete all the questions that we have, but that is going to take us probably about 15 minutes over. So I don't want to be ridiculed and criticized all over social media because we ran 20 minutes over, but if it's good with everybody and good with the candidates, we're going to answer all 5 questions. All right. Thank you. Got to be careful today. Please share your position on banning or / restricting smoking and vaping inside of private residential condos and apartments in the city of Carlsbad. We will start with Teresa and go to Greg and then Tyler and Kevin.
Thank you for the question.
Can you make sure her mic is on?
I know, every time I lift it, it's off and it takes a few seconds to start. I know that this issue was in the paper, and I had a really great quote there, and I wish I had it in front of me so I can repeat that quote to you verbatim. But essentially what I said from the dais when this issue came to us at the City Council is that smoke is the problem. It's not ingesting marijuana or nicotine. You can have gum, you can have a patch, you can have some other way of ingesting. Smoke is the problem, because if you're in a housing, in a residence where you have shared ventilation, the smoke goes through the vents, and people who do not choose to smoke are inhaling that and suffering the effects of second and third hand smoke. And that includes children inhaling marijuana smoke. So I'm not okay with that, and that's why I agreed with the rest of the council when we banned that in multi-unit housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Greg?
I am not in favor of the smoking ban. I've mentioned this on my social media, and I support Melanie Burkholder, who was the only vote against enforcing this ban. Here are the reasons why and my problems. I'm not a smoker. I don't like being around it, and if you were going to rent my house, there would definitely be a clause in the lease saying you're not allowed to do it. This is about people being able to decide what they do in their homes. The last time I checked, this was a free country. It's what I defended as a U.S. Marine, is people's ability, right or wrong, whether you agree with them or not, to be able to decide what they want to do. There was a responsible way for the city to address this, and that was to have evidence. Present the evidence that you are actually creating a health risk to somebody living in another apartment, and then we can talk about that. None of that was ever done. And I don't think that is a responsible way for us to be representing you.
Thank you, Greg.
So I was actually on the Housing Commission, and this was brought up before it went to City Council. I understand the views of people who were in favor and against this, and as an engineer by trade, I'm someone who wants to hear the evidence, is willing to listen to any rational, well-based argument, and give my opinion on it. As chair of the Housing Commission, I was the sole no vote on this smoking ban. The reason I voted no is simple. I think this goes to the heart about what is the city supposed to do. Is the city supposed to enable citizens to live and flourish, or are they supposed to be a heavy hand keeping them down? Now, I'm not a smoker, and I don't think it's a healthy thing. In fact, my wife, she has asthma, so I wouldn't want someone smoking next to us. But I think it's an unfair thing to limit our citizens and what they do with their own bodies.
Thank you, Tyler. Kevin?
Yeah, this is a unique situation because it's a shared public space, right? So you're within dwellings with walls and shared ventilation. So there is, I think, I'm in favor for the ban to an exception. I think there's some amendables that we need to kind of figure out. But what I will say is if it's impeding and impacting those that are in there, then you absolutely cannot do that. Because I don't know if you understand, I've been on 20 years responding on asthma, emphysema, and I watch it all the way to the death, right? So I understand what's taking place here. And there's been enough evidence, and sorry to challenge this, Greg, but there's been enough evidence where we know that smoke inhaling from another person is gonna cause other issues with respiratory issues and whatnot. My dad was a smoker, trust me, I felt it. I will say vaping is an interesting one. We should see just how far it emits there, and those that are trying to reduce themselves down from smoking and things. And then how far exterior can you be? Is there a common place within the facility where you're able to smoke and not feel like you're totally outside of the dwelling? So
Thank you, Kevin.
yeah.
Next question. Are you in support of declaring pride proclamations and raising the pride flag during June in Carlsbad if you're elected? And we'll start with Greg and go to Teresa, Kevin, and then Tyler.
I'm very much in favor of people exercising their liberties. I don't see, though, the value of our city endorsing certain groups and raising certain causes flags. I like the fact that we have the American flag and the city flag waving at our city hall. These are things that all of us share, and they don't create any barriers within our community. I think the other problem, though, is the principle behind it. What is the reason why you're saying somebody is going to be able to raise their flag, and why are you going to be able to say somebody can't raise another one? So what happens when some white supremacist group wants to celebrate Hitler's birthday and put a swastika up? What is our principle then going to be to say no? I think we should just stay focused on letting people be people. Pride all you want, but you don't need a flag up on city property.
Thank you, Greg. Teresa.
I am in favor of. I presented the motion for and I voted for the Pride flag during June Pride Month in Carlsbad, and I'm so proud of that. There was a long discussion about this, and the reason why it's so important that we fly the Pride flag is because there is a group of citizens in Carlsbad that feels stigmatized, that feels sidelined, that feels disenfranchised, and this is a way, flying the flag and declaring June as Pride Month, this is a way to make sure that everyone in Carlsbad feels included and feels welcome. As for the other requests, we have gotten them. We have gotten racist and hateful requests, as Greg mentioned, and the council votes on those or decides to whether even to bring it to the council. And those are terrible requests that we would even think of doing something like that, and we did not even bring that to council, but it's a council decision, and as everything, it's a majority or a 4/5 vote at council. Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa. Kevin.
Yeah, so I'm totally in favor of this flag, and I'll tell you why. And it's and I'll draw a couple of conclusions to this. First and foremost, I think we need to make recognitions of what's going on in this world today, right? So my daughters, hopefully not too soon, but later, they're gonna fall in love with somebody. And right now, I don't know if they say they're in love with some person or the other, what that means. Where instead of saying, hey, I have brown eyes or I have blue eyes, I don't care. And I want that same response to take place there, but that's not happening, and I've been there. And so, like, for example, my involvement with the North County LGBTQ Resource Center, I found one thing. I found a program that hurt my heart to the soul, which is called the Unicorn Homes. That is parents right now, to this day, it's 2024. They're kicking their kids out because of who their children wish to love and not love, and we have to provide homes for them. They're minors, we gotta find a foster parent for them. That's the issue that's still relevant to this day. I believe in flying anything up there that's gonna show love and inclusiveness and no hate, and I'm all for it.
Tyler.
So first off, I want to say that I denounce bigotry in all its forms. I think that as a society, we need to strive towards a better future, and I am in full support of equal treatment under the law. Equal treatment under the law for anyone, regardless of race, gender, or sexual orientation. With that being said, I think to aspire to that goal, we actually need a government which is socially neutral. Socially neutral, simply occupied with the task of governing and governing effectively. And for that reason, I don't support raising the flag.
Next question, and again, we do not here know if the answers or what they're asking would be factual. Do you support full voting transparency when voting at organizations outside of the city of Carlsbad, such as votes at the California League of Cities? And we will start with Tyler and then go to Kevin, Teresa, and Greg.
Integrity and accountability are two of my biggest principles running for office today. I didn't seek this office because I'm trying to make a lot of money or get favors. I'm just an engineer who grew up here in Southern California, and I love our city. And I want a city to have a future for me and my wife and our kids. And so I think as part of integrity and accountability, we need to make as much open to the public as possible. And that includes all our decisions at organizations that are not necessarily city council. For example, the California League of Cities. I think those votes need to be public, and I'm in full support of that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, where I absolutely believe in the sense of transparency, and I understand that feeling that you guys need to know everything that I'm doing. This is also a nonprofit organization, and when you're on the board of a nonprofit organization and you have to do votes and it has to be done under closed doors, that's how it rolls. because then you violate that nonprofit organization. So like the chamber here, when you're in an executive meeting, or I'm doing that in Oceanside, I have to make votes and I have to make sure that they're closed and we have our discussions, because we have to hash things out. And I can't tell you what the discussions were, because sometimes we need to have some sense of privacy behind it. The League of California Cities, it's a very specific question. I think you're trying to target some person specifically. So I'm just looking at it as a whole, right? We're asking like, what we do in a nonprofit organization like the California League of Cities. And if I'm the board member, like I've been in others, you have to maintain a sense of privacy. You have to allow the executive director to be able to do what they need to do. And you need to have them have trust in you that you're going to maintain those types of conversations in a meeting.
Here you go, Teresa.
Thank you. Can you hear? Okay, so we're here to talk about serving the people of Carlsbad, and I absolutely believe in transparency, and I believe that we should be doing the best thing for the people. I always strive to do that for the people. I was elected and elected to represent the people of South Carlsbad, and I am always faithful to that. All organizations have their own rules, and there are times when they do lift your paddle, and that they'll go around and they'll count the number of paddles in the air, or they will do a voice vote. They don't always have a roll call vote where it's one person, one written down with the vote next to them. That's just how those organizations roll. So I don't think that a citizen in Carlsbad can force that to happen at another organization, but I am happy to disclose my votes. If anybody asks me how I voted on any issue, I am happy to disclose that to those people. Nobody has asked me how I have voted at any board meeting that is asking this question right now in this room. Thanks.
Greg?
Yeah, I think the short answer is absolutely. You know, you were talking about discussions and being able to say what's on your mind behind closed doors. That's not what this is. This is about what decision did you make. Especially with something like the California League of Cities. They've made decisions of late that I don't think represent the best interests of Carlsbad at all. They were in favor of Prop 1. This took money away from us and is part of the reasons why we have issues like Windsor Point. Prop 5, they want to mess with the ability to make taxes. That's going to hammer us here. That is not at all in our favor. And then they were wishy-washy on Prop 36. So we can't change how those boards operate, but we can demand a behavior from our representatives on the city council that are members. And we could say, well, report back to us. Instead of waiting for somebody to ask, make a report and be transparent.
Next question. What are the candidates' plans, policies, or opinions on safeguarding Carlsbad's coastal environment and combating the forecasted sea level rise? We will start with Greg, go to Teresa, Kevin, and back to Tyler.
The number one thing we need to do for our coast is ensure that we have sand on our beaches. That has always been the natural defense for any erosion. People are very concerned about water rise. The measurements of that don't reflect the level of concern. It's the fact that we have interfered with how sand gets dispersed on our coasts. So we need to stop being reactionary. We need to have a set schedule every year ensuring that our beaches have enough sand. There are dredgers that will come, take them out of the Bataquitos Lagoon, for example, and ensure that we can do that. That is nature's way of dealing with the erosion. And we need to make sure that sand is on our beaches, again, not as a reaction, but as we need to be proactive.
Teresa.
Thanks. So we actually have a sea level adaptation plan in Carlsbad, and it includes a lot of different pieces. I've been a very active environmentalist on our city council and talking all the time about bluff erosion, about Sand retention, yes, and preservation, and pushing back on artificial structures in the ocean that would only retain sand for maybe northern neighbors and not for the southern ones that the currents carry down. Along the sea level rise adaptation plans is a realignment of Coast Highway 101, which will be moved slightly east, and a relocation of the South Carlsbad State Beach campgrounds, which we will have to move. So there's quite a few pieces to that, but I'm very active in that, and I want to make sure that we are always addressing climate change. Climate change is real, and we all have to do our part at the city, individually, and at a bigger level as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm watching this firsthand take place in my hometown of Palos Verdes. So if you know, like half the cliffs going off there in Portuguese Bend. So it's a real thing that's taking place going up and down the state. And that being said, this is taking place up and down the state, right? So this is where, first and foremost, the city has had a plan created in order to be able to combat this. So it's not been completely ignored or anything. But the next thing that we have to also understand, this is a regional answer. This is why we can't just go and yell at the Sacramentos nonstop and say, oh, by the way, can I get a little help here? We need to collaborate together and say, we have a coastal issue up and down this entire state, and you need to help us as much as you need to help our neighbors. I'm not gonna fight with Oceanside, got a business there. And I don't want to fight our cities in the south. I want to have a regional answer that's going to be able to solve this, and it shouldn't just be on the backs of the city of Carlsbad.
So this has been said by others, but our beaches are a key feature of Carlsbad. We are a village by the sea. And if we don't have our beaches, then we have totally lost a core part of our city. They're important for us as our identity, who we are, where our family goes to play, but also for the tourist sector. If we don't have beaches, then we don't have tourists and we don't have revenue. So we need that. And I would agree with Greg that we need to look into beach replenishment. And I'd also agree with Kevin that this is a regional problem and we need to work together with our neighbors. Because if we're all trying to spite the other, then it's not going to work out for everyone.
Thank you. We are at our last question before we move into closing arguments. This is what we call a milestone. Would you support the city of Carlsbad building solar electric canopies and electric vehicle charging stations on city-owned parking lots? And we will start with Kevin and go to Tyler and then Greg and to Teresa.
I think we have to measure out the cost. I would love to be able to have that. We got to see if we can get, once again, collaboration across the state and see if we can actually pool the money to be able to do this. It can't just be on the backs of our taxpayers, especially with what we're going through right now. Is it a part of a plan that we should consider down the road, especially since we're electrifying the entire fleets of vehicles across the state? Absolutely. Is now the time? I'm not too sure. Are we scaled enough to make the cost where it pencils out? I'm not too sure, because it's a good question, because I haven't done that math or anything like that. I'm in favor for it. It's just when is the question that we are able to do it.
Tyler.
So I think the question comes down again to the details. The devil's always in the details. And is this revenue negative, revenue neutral, revenue positive? What sort of model could this be? Could this be solely public? Is this a public-private partnership? Again, I think the long-term vision is you have more electric vehicles, and we need to increase our electrical capacity to meet the upcoming demand. But I'm not sure a huge investment from the city is the right choice at this moment.
Thank you. Greg?
You're probably going to see a lot of agreement here so far. I also agree with what both Kevin and Tyler were just talking about. My bigger concern right now is our economic future, and so I am very concerned about the costs. And so I would, just like Kevin was emphasizing, I would really want to be looking at what's the cost benefit there. And then Tyler was mentioning if other people want to pay for it, well, that might make it a different story.
You're Greg. Teresa?
Thank you. I am a big believer in solar. Rooftop solar is a way that we can generate renewable energy from the sun. We live in a sunny area, and this is plentiful. So it's a low cost and plentiful source of energy. We are going to need it for our electric grid. Our climate action plan that was developed by our staff is in the process of an update. I know that it has been presented. It's out there. It's on the website, and I know it's been presented to the Chamber of Commerce and many other groups. You should check it out because this is in there. This is one of the proposals, and by the time it makes it to the City Council, we will have the costs, so we can make that decision. And I do expect that to come hopefully within the next couple of months, so that we can all have this discussion together. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've covered all of the audience's questions, and we are now going to move into closing statements. We did not flip a coin. We did not draw numbers. We've left it up to yours truly to determine the order. I hope you've noticed tonight I've tried to keep this as level as possible, keeping the two candidates in each district speaking either before in unison with each other. And I'm trying to keep this as level as possible so that we hear from people in the beginning and at the end, and nobody gets to always have the last word. So looking at my notes, we're gonna go Teresa, Greg, Kevin, and Tyler in that order. So Teresa, you have 2 minutes, I believe, for your closing.
Great. Thank you all for being here tonight. Hopefully you've learned a lot more about me and about my colleagues here from our answers. You will have heard that I'm a very experienced community and business leader, and I'm so proud of living in Carlsbad. I come from a place of gratitude. I love living here. I know my family loves living here. I mentioned I had 4 generations here at one time until my grandma passed 2 years ago. I think of all the families that we serve. I think of the seniors on fixed incomes and the working families that are struggling to get by. And I want to think of all of them every time I'm making a decision on the dais. I constantly reach out to the community to solicit input, just so I know how people feel on the various issues that I'm voting on. When it comes to elections, I really encourage you to do your research. You will find that there are some things, maybe even that were said here tonight, that need to be fact-checked. And I would encourage you to be a critical thinker about those things. For example, our structural deficit, that is not the case. Some things about our water rates, some things about our crime. Carlsbad is not overrun with gangs. We are not experiencing some surge in crime. In fact, the FBI criminal bulletin that comes out from Sandag says that our crime is very low, has been on the decrease, and we have been working very closely. This is why I work so closely with reputable organizations that support me, from the Sierra Club and the Police and Fire to Congressman Mike Levin. I'm well supported because I check my facts. I trust but verify. I know what I'm voting on. I'm thoughtful. I didn't make it here, especially as a young woman when I started my business as a young Latina in Carlsbad. I didn't make it because I was doing things on the fly. I didn't have privilege. I worked my way to where I am as a successful business owner. I helped my daughter. We had times when we struggled, and she is now a successful college graduate off working in the Bay Area. And I'm so proud of what I've accomplished, and I want to give back, and I want to help others do the same. So I hope that you're an informed voter this November and that you choose me again for District 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Greg?
Yes, also, thank you everybody for coming, for the Chamber for putting this on. I wanted to take my closing opportunity to talk about the concept of representation, because after all, that's why we're all here. We're asking to be your representatives. And when you break it down, at the very core, at the foundation of representation, you find loyalty. And that makes sense because when we know what somebody is loyal to, we know what and who they will represent. Now, as somebody's running for office, the rule is you never make promises, but I can make you this promise. My loyalty is here to Carlsbad. As I mentioned in the beginning of the evening, this is where my family is. This is where my children's future is. To say I have a vested interest in its success would be an understatement. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand that as your representative, I will always have that concept in my mind. Are we addressing your needs and your concerns? And are our actions impacting or helping, impacting or benefiting or hurting the people of this city? I hope that you can find in me that I am a loyal representative. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys very much for being here and being patient all the way to the end. The first thing I want to say is 2 of the 3 of my 3 big issues that I have for District 2 were met. That was the homeless and what La Posada and what's going on in Quarry Creek took place, and the local control for the airport. My number 1 thing is life safety. I put my fire captain helmet on, and I see a very humble group of people that live in the Rancho Carlsbad area. They have 3 tributaries that are coming down right now, okay? And it all connects right there in Rancho Carlsbad. So what's been taking place? An immense amount of erosion has taken place. And then all the silt of that erosion has taken place and built up to a point where the connection point is, and as it crosses to El Camino Real and into Agua Hedionda, is so high now that we're going to create a floodplain condition. I see it. I know what's going to unfold when all this takes place, just from my public safety perspective. That is, we have an older population there, and you're expecting them to deal with a flooding condition. I do not want to be reactive to after a tragedy. I want to be proactive to that. So that's my number 1 platform there. Second, Greg's right. I hope you guys can have, if 2 people have never ran before and they're running for the spot, the question is trust. May 2014, I'm a fire captain up in Culver City. I get the call out. There's a poinsettia fire. We drive 100 miles down here. We rally up in a strike team. Hundreds of us come here to save and protect. And I don't care what happens to me. I care what happens to you and your property. Then we jump ship over to the Cocos Fire in San Marcos and Escondido. That is what I've been doing for 20 years. 20 years dealing with the homeless, 20 years dealing with those that have died, and I have to tell the family members that everything is going to be okay and what they're going to have to expect next. I've been doing it time and time again. I hope you can trust me. There's been 20 years that the city of Culver City has trusted me. You guys trust me to come down here. I'm just asking for that next support for the 2025 campaign. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Kevin. Tyler?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time and your attention. Tonight, I want to leave you with this. Our city has a choice. We can strive toward a better future, or we can continue sliding toward the Sacramento status quo. I'm running because I want to chart a bright path forward for Carlsbad and uplift the spirit and original vision of our city. We deserve to live on our own terms as Carlsbad residents, not according to what the state wants. My opponent has suggested collaboration with Sacramento, but can we truly fight for what's right by conceding half of what we care about? Instead, I believe we should team up with regional partners to advocate for our mutual interests and stand as a united front. Together, we are strong, and together we can win. What Carlsbad needs is a new council, a fresh direction, and a clear vision. One that stays true to our heritage as a village by the sea. Our city's heritage can be described succinctly as follows. Carlsbad was designed to be a one-of-a-kind city that others followed. As your councilman, I will make to work Carlsbad a leader in innovation while addressing the pressing issues of today, such as homelessness, crime, noise, and traffic. We must remain hopeful and believe in our bright future. I'm committed to being the leader that our city needs, so I humbly ask for your vote and your support. Thank you.
All right, I think we have reached the conclusion of tonight's event. We want to thank all of the candidates for giving their time and being transparent and getting up here in front of all of us and their willingness to serve. That should never be taken lightly. So we thank you. We thank all of you for coming out tonight to join us. Please tell all of your friends and families to watch this event on the Carlsbad Chamber YouTube channel. And if you do value the Chamber, as I think most of you do, I know that Brett would ask right now that you all go online and place a Google review and let everyone in the community know how much you value the Chamber. That's really important to the staff. They love to read those. I'd like to thank my fellow board members, Amanda Miles and Joe Gabalden, for helping out tonight. The staff, Daryl, Kathleen, thank you so much. And with that, good night, good night, good night.